Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. It's another episode of Dr. Homebrew. And we have Homebrew on this show today. I'm 50-50. Actually, I'm 60-40. I'm 60% unhappy and 40% happy. And the 60% unhappy is because it's all double IPAs, I think. Cooper, is that right?
It's all double IPAs.
It's all double IPAs, which is annoying. But I'm 40% happy because we have part of the dynamic duo that is covering for Jamil over on Brew Strong, Travis from, I guess from Brew Strong is what I said. So if you've been listening to Brew Strong for the past year or so, I think, you'll be welcome. The dulcet tones of Travis will be welcome to your eardrums. Travis, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
Who was that other guy you mentioned though? Jamil, somebody?
Yeah, he's the email checker intern. Yeah, he checks the email. Yeah. That's about it. Yeah. No, Jamil's been down and out for several months now. So while he's recovering from whatever's going on with him, whenever he comes back, I expect Jamil's Medical Corner to be one hell of an episode.
That's going to be like 3 episodes, I think.
I know, right?
3 years of episodes, man.
Yeah. So, of course, we over here on Dr. Homebrew wish Jamil a speedy recovery, and hopefully he gets through his bullshit just fine. Yeah. But in the meantime, Travis and Big Mike Persine are holding down the fort over there on Brew Strong. You guys have been doing a great job, man. I'm editing the show, so of course I know. Otherwise, I wouldn't listen.
You're braver than I am. I can't listen to myself.
It's very hard. It took me very, very long time. And just the fact that I had to do it meant I had there was nobody else for me to do it when I was first doing it.
Yeah.
Now it's not as much of a grind, but boy, does it suck.
I really appreciate that feedback because I'm very curious about how bad I'm butchering the shows and so forth, and how well you're making us sound. I did listen to one of the older ones when I was on with John and Jamil, and really appreciated the very crafty edits where you chopped out some of my ignorance and made me look even better. I was outstanding and greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore. It's too much.
Not on this show.
Much.
You take out the ignorance, there's like 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
It's too much. I used to chop like silences and stuff, but it's like if I did that, honestly, like we just wouldn't. It takes too long. So I let it breathe a little bit. I did get a little aggressive when I was first starting out. And then I realized, I cut out a lot of it. I cut out some of it, but that's the goal, right? Is you want the data to come through, you want the personality to come through, but you don't want to get distracted by the or the restarts or stuff like that. But it happens. That's the thing. That's the secret. Like nobody gets on a mic and just goes, "All right, I'm perfect. Here we go." It's all editing. Every podcast you hear is worth listening to, in my opinion, has some form of editing to it. So.
Well, that's gold about the video because you can see an edit. You might not be able to hear an edit, but you will see it. So, so here we are. I mean, your listeners right now have 30 days to listen to us live before Facebook takes us down. And
yeah, something like that. But
you repost it on YouTube.
You know what? If you're listening on Facebook, don't listen on Facebook. Don't listen on YouTube. YouTube, sure, maybe, but just download the podcast because that's where the ads are. You know what I mean? And if you're not subscribed, then you at least give us 50 seconds of your ad time. You know what I mean? To help the network. That's what pays our bills. You know what I mean? So who cares if it's on Facebook?
I am still subscribed. I'm not sure how to unsubscribe.
Don't. That's how you do it. Is you don't actually do it.
You do like me and most other people. Is you just stop going on Facebook very much, and you never post anything or look at anything on Facebook, and that solves the problem.
Upon your death, that's when the PayPal subscription then rolls over to your next of kin.
There you go.
In perpetuity. I want to do this.
My son.
This is my reverse dowry. I don't know. I want to start doing. I know you guys have seen on Facebook. I don't go on Facebook anymore, but I hear a lot about the AI slop that's generated, where they have like Jesus made of shrimp, and it's like, can this picture get 5 million likes?
Jesus Christ!
I want to start doing that. Or like little kids in sub-Saharan Africa making a car out of water bottles. And it's like, look at the genius on this boy. Let's get him a scholarship. And it's like, it's not real, Grandma. It's not real.
This isn't the future
they
that
get
I
like
wanted.
2 million likes. Dude, they get so many likes. And the problem with it, number one, is that it's just garbage. Yeah. But the other problem is that AI is now training itself on those images.
Exactly.
So it's like repeating this thing and it's eating its own crap. So I was listening to this podcast and this dude's like, in my opinion, AI will be the death of social media because of how social media has embraced AI images like that. I'm like, well, now I want to help kill social media. I think that'd be great.
We're on the same page there. Yeah.
It's like a turbo search engine optimization bullshit thing where SEO made like search almost useless, and then AI is just going to do that for search and social media.
Yeah, there are people who use ChatGPT instead of Googling.
Then they're idiots.
And it's like there's that. First of all, I mean, look, we can do a whole episode on AI, but like that is insane, literally an insane thing to do because ChatGPT is wrong a lot of the time. And then I've also heard that they're starting to learn that the reliance upon AI, like to ChatGPT to ask it questions, lowers your cognitive, or not cognitive, but your reasoning skills. So you can't deduce a lot of, we're going to raise like a generation of people who can't really problem solve because they're used to just asking a question and then getting it fed to them.
I don't know if I believe that because people said that about books when people started having printing presses, because the point of going to a university was you'd learn to memorize these books, and you would have to get your degree, you'd have to memorize like 50 fucking books and be able to spout like any page at any time. And then people started printing books. Like, people are dumb because they're going to remember every word in every book. And people have been saying this shit for 600 years.
Well, when you were in college, and how did you react to those people saying that to you?
Right?
I told them they were full of shit. I'm not going to memorize any books anymore. Get out of here, Socrates.
Socrates.
Plato.
Socrates.
Get out of here. Yeah, give me some Greek for that.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, well let's start the show. Cooper, what's going on, man? I feel like we haven't heard from you yet. How you doing? You were just in Seattle, and I'm gonna berate you real fast.
Judge.
You didn't go to Lucky Envelope, which is the #1 tourist destination in Seattle. It should be. It needs to be.
Well,
Lucky Envelope Brewing Company, brewery or whatever it is.
I went to several other breweries, but I was kind of at the mercy of my host, who was carting me around to the breweries there.
So who is this person and why are they distinctively anti-Lucky Envelope?
Mike B. He runs the Seattle Regionals. You know Mike.
All right, Barry, there you go. You got to get on this Mike B. the Flea guy and beat his ass for not taking our friends over to your
He
spot.
took me to Chuckanut and
you went to Chuckanut. Now, how was that? That's like a tick off a list somewhere.
Yeah, their pills and Hellas and everything were spot on. There were some other good ones up there.
I've had a handful of beers from them that people have muled down, and they are all rarely when I used to go out a lot, rarely will I find a beer that's worth like $7 or $8. I would overpay for those.
We went all the way to Bellingham, and
amazing.
we went to a place called Otherlands that had really fantastic lagers. And they don't tell you, but their menu's all vegan too, or vegetarian at least. But yeah, they had pretty good food there, pretty good fries and stuff. So like with salt, pepper flavored, or Belgian, or Cajun, or whatever you want, and a lot of different things.
There you go. I like a multitude of options for fries.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. Those places that have sweet potato fries. Sweet potato fries, right? The orange sweet potatoes, American.
Usually pretty good.
I put Sully onto this, and he kind of poo-pooed it. So now I'm going to put it out to the masses. Japanese sweet potatoes.
I haven't had a Japanese sweet potato.
What is
Japanese sweet
different about
them? They're not orange. They're like white, like a cream color.
Is that similar to the African ones that are like called a true yam?
That I don't know.
Okay.
See, now you're flexing information, your agricultural information on me, and I don't appreciate it. No, kidding. No, it was wild because like my wife got them. She's like, yeah, I heard about it on a podcast. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And I tried it. They're not as sweet as the orange sweet potatoes, but they have like a depth of flavor that the orange sweet potatoes do not have. And so you eat them side by side. You're like, well, wait a minute. This is not like so she made them side by side so we can test them. The orange ones they're aggressively sweet. It's like a punch of sweet, and that's kind of it. And then these are kind of like the long game, and there's a little bit of depth in there. And I'm like, wow, these would make killer fucking sweet potato fries. Okay, so anybody out there does it, please do it. Let me know if you put it on the menu of wherever you at. You call them, please call them, name them after me. You know what I mean? Name them the Major Gyps fries.
So like a white sweet potato.
Whatever. It's white. Okay. Yeah.
I go to Nagio Market in Mountain View sometimes. It's a great Japanese supermarket. I'll look for them there.
Do it. Yeah. Any Asian supermarket should have it.
Interestingly, Google shows them with red and purple skin, but a pale meat.
Yeah. They were pale. Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
It's wild, man. Yeah. All right. Speaking of being wild, everybody, let's get into this beer. So, Travis, you sent us a plethora of double IPAs. What's the story behind these? They were all labeled. They had the caps on there, but what's the story behind brewing these? It looks like there was some kind of a bracket thing going on.
Yeah. So the one I recommend we start with, whether we do or not, the wet hop Chinook. I entered it into this bracket challenge. I wouldn't have entered it into anything because it is a wet hop double IPA, and it's not really a category, especially, not any specific, other than, GABF does a wet hop. And it's ironic because all their beer comes in before wet hops are available, but they still do. Yeah. So,
so it's like 10 months too late. Yeah,
exactly. You're right on it, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
it's the, on the cap, just to interrupt, it's the DIPA Wet Chinook AF.
Yes.
Bracket challenge. That's the one. Okay.
Yeah. So AF is Anvil Foundry, not the other AF.
Not what the
but anyway. So I did bottle it for the bracket challenge. In the bracket challenge, it made it a few brackets in, and it lost to the ultimate winner. Not in the ultimate bracket, but like 2 or 3 before that. So I felt at least okay. The one that beat me won everything. So
See, that's how I feel like when I used to watch hockey. And the Sharks would get knocked out in the first round like usual. And it's like, okay, if they lose to the eventual winners of the Stanley Cup, I feel good about that. That's okay. That's an acceptable loss. So I feel you on that. I think it's good sportsmanship.
Yeah. It's that or your hockey team loses to your arch rival, and you're like, I hope they lose every game here on out. I don't care.
Oh yeah,
it's one of the other.
Yeah, I want everyone to break their ankles on that starting line.
Exactly. So the wet Chinook, Blue Lake hops in Michigan, has a wet hop process, and honestly, I didn't understand how interesting it was going to be to work with these hops until I was working with these hops.
Okay, so these are from Blue Lake, because we've talked about it before, and I know you guys interviewed the guy from Blue Lake, and I'm really curious about that. How were they packaged? They're freeze dried, or
they're frozen? They're not freeze dried, because when they defrost, they are almost dripping wet. These are never kiln hops that are purged, and so he doesn't give out all the secrets, unfortunately.
No, yeah.
So they're purged to some degree, either nitrogen, argon, something very neutral, and vacuum packed and frozen and kept frozen. Honestly, mine were 2022 hops, and when I defrosted them, I'm expecting, okay, this is gonna be green and vegetal, and I'll see how it works out. Not vegetal, bright, interesting smell that I've never smelled in a hop before in my life. And when I was finished with them, and of course I'm concerned, I'm using 3 to 4x more hops in my whirlpool. I'm going to lose so much work. No, they're wet. They don't hold it.
That's a good point.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
I always thought they would hang on to it. Yeah, they're already saturated, aren't they?
Yep.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So you guys are getting the feel of what I'm going through as I'm doing this and not knowing what to expect entirely, and not expecting a whole lot other than this is cool. I'm going to brew with some hops never brewed with before, which I do. I religiously brew with hops I've never brewed with before, but the wet hop wasn't just a different hop. It was a different concept of hop. And so after I'm done, and I go ahead and I risk squeezing it. I've squeezed T90s in the past off of a dry hop and made my beer way too grassy, but I risked it anyway. I wanted all the flavor I could get out of these hops. Still no grassy. And I took the hops post brew day, dumped them out of my muslin sock that I usually use because I didn't, have enough space for that much hops in my kettle, and then just destroy my pump with hops. And they looked really cool post boil. It looked like hops like you never see, like, unless I guess you farm hops, you pick hops. So and that, I mean, it's building, and I'm like, oh my god, I used the freshest hops I ever could have used. This is so cool. It was outstanding. I love the beer.
That's crazy.
It's entirely different, and I don't think that you would know it was a double IPA if I didn't tell you it was a double IPA. But
yeah, that's untrue.
Yeah.
That's untrue, 100%. So have you messed with wet Chinook hops before?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, but
because I'd be curious to to get your take on the aroma and the flavor, post.
So what Adrian did for me is because I did this as a smash. He provided me with an additional 12 ounces of the same batch of hops as T90s, as dried pelletized hops. So my bittering is Michigan Chinook, and my dry hop, both dry hop additions are also Michigan Chinook. And I was able to use the wet hop Michigan Chinook as my Whirlpool hop. So it's all Michigan Chinook, all from the same batch, or whatever the proper terminology is. You can flex some agriculturalness here if you'd like and tell me, oh, that's exactly that. But
no, I'm dumb as shit. I'm not going to say anything. It's grown in dirt, right? Or is it
the same row?
I think
it's all I know. Yeah,
similar row, close enough. No, seriously, it's like the same, whatever they call it. The same batch. They pulled it from here. They T90'd some. So he had 12 ounces of the T90s, and he sent me 2 pounds, 2.2 pounds, I think 1 kilo. I think I could look it up. It's the larger size they sell for home brewers. They sell like a 2 ounce.
It's
like
not
a
important.
2 pound. Exactly.
Yeah, that's all right, man.
And man, I would have used more dry hop. I'd have used more of the wet hop if I wasn't afraid of it turning grassy, because it's I like the flavor it gave the beer. I like the flavor of Michigan Chinook. I tell you that.
When you have to use more weight when you're doing a wet hop as well, because there's 2 ounces of pelletized hop is going to be equivalent to 4 or 5 ounces probably the wet hop, I would guess.
So Adrian's not paying me to tell you everything I'm telling you here, but I'll keep going. They tell you the ratio to use.
Oh, okay.
They calculate the oil ratio of the wet versus dry and say, okay, it's like this particular year, this batch, this is like a 3.45 ratio. So use 3.45 times more. Go ahead and round up, And they give you all that info. They give you all the details you ever want about any hops you ever buy, including the ratio of how to interpret it for use in your brew day.
Interesting.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the support on that.
Oh yeah, it's published on their website.
I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into the beer itself. Let's get into the judging. All right. Which of the Bryans is ready to go first?
I've already gotten into the beer. Let me give you
get it, Cooper. Get after it.
In the nose, it's got it's got a light grapefruity, but kind of an earthy hop nose. It's not harsh at all. It's really smooth nose. Not very raw smelling. Sometimes a wet hop can be a little more raw. This is just smells fresh, no grassiness. Smells like the beer itself was going to be a little sweet when I smelled it. It has this edge, like, okay, there's a light alcohol in there, but it's not very poking out very strongly. The malt here is just kind of boldly bready and clean, solid base for the beer. Not a wimpy base, but it's not really not caramelly or anything like that. It's just kind of base malt character. And appearance wise, it's nice and pretty, like kind of a medium gold with a cream colored head on the top that stays just about forever. I keep repouring it, but it's got really good head retention. And it's fairly clear. There's a little hop haze, but that's all right. Getting into the flavor, it has a nice clean low bitterness there, with fruity and resiny notes coming from the hop. I'm getting somewhat of a light spice to me that was like almost like a rye character. I don't know. I read one of the other labels had rye or something. We'll get to that, I guess. But I was thinking of rye, but it was something in there has a little spiciness reminiscent of something like that. But yeah, it's very, very pleasant. Seems very cleanly fermented. Nice dry finish. And again, the malt is just kind of there to support, but it's not too sweet in the flavor like I kind of feared. It's pretty, dries out pretty nicely, but it's not one of these over dried double IPAs. It's got a little sweetness that's coming from the alcohol itself. So
Yeah, I
it's
need to send you more beer. This is outstanding.
it's not deceptive, but it's you can tell the alcohol's there, but it's welcome and it's smooth and clean. So yeah, mouthfeel wise, it's just medium carbonation, medium bodied, I'd say. Not really getting any severe warmth or anything, and it's not astringent at all. Just kind of where it should be for double IPA. My only complaint about this beer, overall impression, I would say, it doesn't taste like a bracket. I mean, a bracket or it's a bracket beer, right?
That was bracket winner or not.
I'm just joking around. There's no honey in this. No honey in this beer.
No, there's
at
Not a bracket.
I get
Yeah.
a bracket.
I'm
a little
backing
more
myself
honey.
off because I remembered that Ryan's also going to give us some feedback, and I don't want to give too much.
Yeah.
Sorry,
That's
Ryan.
okay.
Brian.
But yeah, I probably give this beer about a 37. Just looking at total score, it's nice and clean. I think you could dry out the body just a little bit more, and use a little more of that hop, get a little more aroma, like you said. You kind of wished you did. I'd like to taste it with a little extra oomph on that too. But it's pretty fresh, and it's amazing that this year is this hop is a 23 harvest. You said it's 2 years old and it's still that fresh tasting, which is like, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like talking to Ralph Olson years and years ago from Hop Union. He always said the first thing I heard, or the first time I heard this was from him, and he goes, if you package the hops correctly and you store them correctly, there's hardly any degradation in alpha acid content or anything like that. So we keep them, fresh. Because I have hops that are 10 years old that are perfectly preserved. Wow. That we do tests on for benchmarks, and it's like there's no change. There's no change. So I would also want to question that because of the fresh hop, the wet hop, it's a different animal, right? Mm-hmm. But even if there is a little bit, I think when you're using wet hops anyways, or fresh hops, I guess they're the same thing. You're going for more, I would guess, more of the flavor rather than the alpha acids or whatever. So it's all the other funk besides the bitterness, right? So it kind of doesn't really matter if the alpha acid drops a little bit, as long as everything else stays stable.
Right.
And I should have
or is the changing part of it? I don't know.
I should have gotten many of my IBUs from the fresh hop, the wet hop, because it's the Whirlpool hop. But calculation versus this beer does not present with as many IBUs as Tinza thought I would have. I'll give more details after more feedback. I'm trying not to mess anything up here.
Thanks,
yeah.
Travis.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, Coop, are you done?
Yeah,
I don't know if I cut
done.
you
This
off
is the part where Brian just says, "Okay, I agree with everything Coop said," and then we go.
I agree with most of what Coop said.
Well, what was the score,
37.
brother?
And I would just entered it as a specialty double IPA with wet hop Chinook. I would declare it as, and you can enter that in a comp, and that's fine.
Yeah,
exactly.
37. All right.
So
sure.
So yeah, I won't hit some of the points that Cooper already made, but largely I agree with him. I got the grapefruit aroma. I got some low pineapple, low earthy, low malt. It was very fresh. I liked that about it. There was nothing. I didn't get any oxidation. I thought it was very fresh, clean aroma. And like Cooper, I thought it was impressive. There was no grassy vegetal character. That's often an issue with we had that wet hop show like that 3-4 months ago. And one of the things that we talked about then, which I won't repeat in too much detail, is these beers can be grassy and vegetal because you're just putting so much hop matter in the kettle and it's not kilned. And it's a risk that can happen. But Yeah, Travis, you did a good job not getting that flavor. Maybe it's sourcing those Blue Lake hops. I don't know, but
I think so.
it was not grassy like these can be. So I give it 9 out of 12 for aroma, 3 out of 3 for appearance, a slight haze, which it's not a hazy IPA, but beer, and as it warms up, some of that was just chill haze. Beers with a lot of alpha acid are going to be a little hazy. It's unavoidable. That's okay. Light golden color, long lasting white head, and 3 out of 3. Flavor, yeah, I got some citrus, very low resin. I did get some grapefruit and pineapple. It wasn't resiny in the sense that a West Coast Chinook is danky and resiny or piney. And I totally get that because, the dominant character of West Coast Chinook tends to be pine. And kind of like Simcoe is cat piss if you harvest it at the wrong time. But it otherwise is a beautiful hop. I think that when you pick Chinook, has a big impact on how piney it is. Because Chinook can be grapefruity, it can be pineapple-y, it can have a lot of character. I think people in the 90s, like when I started brewing, tended to use Chinook for its pine tree character. But we don't. I think we've gotten past a point where it's just that piney hop.
Early on too, it was considered a pretty high alpha hop, and a lot of people would tend to want to use it for bittering. But when I started using it, I just considered it always just a dual use hop and more for aroma than anything. You could make an all Chinook beer with the bittering and flavor and aroma and dry hop, and it comes across with it contributes what it needs to at each stage, and you're good.
Exactly. That was well attenuated. It had high bitterness, which is, again, you talked about using some T90s in addition to wet hop. I think that was a good idea because I think a pitfall that homebrewers can fall into with wet hop beer is relying just on the wet hops, and you're never going to get the bitterness to be where you want it to be just on the wet hops. So
I don't have a kettle big enough.
No, it's not possible. So high bitterness, no grassy, vegetal character in the flavor either. 15 out of 20, mouthfeel 5 out of 5. It's definitely warming, medium body, medium low carbonation, creamy, not astringent. Total, I give it an overall impression of 8 for a total of 40. So within about 3. Coop, you gave it 37, right?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, so we're within 3. It would be the only note I might have is, like I have with so many homebrew beers, a little more carbonation might be nice, but that's, compared to the whole thing, is pretty minor. And, 40 is still a good score. So after you're done and we hear all about it, I want to hear how this placed in your competition in this bracket thing.
For sure. Yeah. Let me just jump in as the resident hater. As I've been sipping on it, Travis, I vomit. No, I think I don't know. It's borderline if it would, referring to the comment of like, you wouldn't know if it's a double IPA unless I told you and I called you a liar. I don't know. Maybe it's like, I'm on the edge of like knowing that or not. And I think it's because of that kind of pineapple. There's like a creamy pineapple, and I don't mean like full creamy, but like a little bit of like a rounded pineapple, almost like a tropical drink. Yeah. In some regards. Like if you aged this with like a little bit of rum oak cubes or something like that, like I don't know, that could be kind of funky, kind of a funky blend. That period in life where people were trying to make beer cocktails a thing, and it didn't really work. Like that could probably work with something like this. And I'm fascinated to know if it's the hops or a combination of maybe the age of the beer and the low carbonation and who knows, right? But there is that pineapple tropical thing. And I think that's what I like about wet hop beers. And a lot of people don't like wet hop beers because they have a beer and they go, okay, this is a beer. It's a known factor, but you have a wet hop beer and you have all this other shit in there that gives different flavors. And we're like, I don't like it. But I think with something like this, where you can lean into those flavors a lot. It's just general observations that don't mean anything. I would probably rock it. I don't know. I like my default like 36, 38, I think it's right about there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it smells sort of pina colada-y and not really coconut necessarily, but like there's like a Yeah.
Because I think if it was Sabro, you'd be texting me curse words right now.
Yeah, it's a wild beer, man. It's definitely a wild beer. It's now it's sitting in my glass. There's a little tiny bit left, and there's a lot of alcohol. So maybe that's coming through with that pineapple. And I got weird shaped glasses.
But
so straight wall.
But you're getting good on the alcohol. And since any guesses on ABV, and if you don't wish to go on the record, I'll happily tell you where it landed.
8.1.
Yeah, I'm going to say 8.0.
8.5.
9.4.
Oh,
wow.
Hey,
9.4?
brother.
9.4.
Wow, you're almost in the triple territory there, man. Almost there.
Don't tell me.
Yeah. All right, I'll tell you what. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to hear more about this beer from Travis. We'll get a little recipe, and we'll dive into another beer. So hang on, everyone. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
Now, back to the examination.
All right, thanks for hanging on, everybody. We are back here, and we're going to learn a little bit more about this wet hop double IPA from Travis. Travis, what do you want to tell us about this beer?
So it is a smash.
Want to give us a recipe
intentionally.
first, or
Sorry.
Okay, smash.
Yeah.
All right.
So the only malt is a Golden Promise. That's
Crazy.
Yes, that's some of the sweetness you get from that. Some of the sweetness you get from 9.4%, and you don't get all 9.4% from Golden Promise. I've got almost 10% dextrose.
Mm-hmm.
So it finished at. You guys like bricks or gravity? I mean, for me, gravity's real and bricks is like imaginary.
I
Insult
agree.
to every pro brewer out there.
Gravity's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Finished at 10.08.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah, and that's.
What was the starting?
Oh, let me get back to that. Not as high as you'd expect because it finished so low. I've got my notes up on one page, and I've got the recipe on another page. So, 1076 down to 1008, and I use the
Holy
alternate
cow.
method
That's a
for
good
ABV.
drop, dude.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's a slammer.
Yeah.
Welcome to my double IPAs. So the next two are different though.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm regularly in that low nines territory on my double IPAs. My smash. This is my basic smash recipe adjusted. This is 12 ounces of the wet hop in the whirlpool. So 3 on bittering, 4 on dry hop 1, 4 on dry hop 2, but 12 ounces of the wet hop in the whirlpool. And that I think is what's going to scare most people off because again, we go back to where I said it didn't hold the wort. And I think that's what everyone's afraid of. And JP, you mentioned it, difference between wet hop and fresh hop. A fresh hop can be kilned, I believe, but kilned right now and used right now, where the wet hop is not kilned.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense broken down, I guess. That now I know. Now I understand the two terms and the meaning behind them.
You still got to use the fresh hop right now, but the wet hop is now we picked it. So I mean, I could have been throwing bugs in my beer, right? But I did it in a whirlpool, and I whirlpooled at 180.
Yeah. Well, they've been dead for 3 years anyway, so who cares?
Frozen dead. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
That White Labs 001. It's my house ale yeast for most of my hoppy things. This was probably second or third batch on a repitch. My water's not fancy. I do RO, but I mean I hit like probably a 3-to-1 ratio on my sulfates to chlorides, etc. I don't go crazy. It doesn't look like a British ale with all kinds of salts going on. Pretty simple recipe, and I use it over and over and over, and I make smashes all the time, so I can experiment with new hops. So getting a chance to do the wet hop and the Michigan Chinook, I was like, hell yeah, I was ready for it.
Okay, excellent. Do we have any feedback or questions from the Bryans? I mean, I say we. I don't know anything.
So this is a browner IPA. It's a double IPA. Would you call this a brown IPA?
Oh, you moved on to the next one.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't sure. I'm kind of judging in advance. No, the question.
That's
so
all right.
You're
good.
You said that was all Golden Promise.
The last one was all Golden Promise. The brown
that's what I mean. No, I mean, so that's why I'm I'm back. I got my head back to what we're talking about. That was all
right.
Golden
Yeah.
Promise.
Yes.
I think maybe that was one of the keys to why that was such a good beer.
I love Golden Promise. I did I've done smashes with various pills. I use a lot of raw around here. Raw is we get easy. So the raw standard 2-row. I've even done the raw pale, which people don't catch on to. That's a darker malt technically. I did some Maris Otter, and that Golden Promise is my base smash malt. I just love that malt.
Mhm.
It
It's
is
good
really
for
good.
making IPAs. I really like that malt too.
So yeah,
Excellent. Coop, do you got any comments on the recipe at all, or the hop schedule or anything like that?
Yeah, well, the hop schedules. It sounds like he just followed basically what he, what the conversion ratio told him to do for his usual
Yeah.
smash recipe, and then
Yeah, it's probably a little different of an
Shoving
animal, I
in
suppose,
yeah.
than what we're here used to.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, what about you, Travis? Do you have any questions for these guys? Any way that if you wanted to do this again, or it sounds like you kind of wanted to add a little more hops, but anything else you want to focus on before we move on to the next beer?
no, and honestly, I think the analysis here was spot on. You guys are drinking the one I bottled a while back, and I unfortunately didn't save a bottle of that. But the feedback, what you said, if you wrote that on my score sheet, I might love the score, I might hate the score, but there's not a single thing you guys said that wasn't exactly accurate. You guys got the beer, honestly.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you.
And I would love a higher score, but the most known wet hop beer is Celebration.
Yeah.
This doesn't taste anything like Celebration. If you're gonna compare it
No.
to that for notes, it's not that beer. It's hard, and it sounds like you guys have more wet hop experience than I do. Kudos. I need to go back and listen to that show.
It's hard, I think, for a wet hop beer to stand out in competition, unless it's a wet hop beer competition.
I agree.
It's
Yeah.
never going to have, especially in 2025, right? Everybody wants, these gigantic hop flavor, gigantic hop aroma. Bitterness, not so much, but bitterness needs to be there to keep it from being flabby. And a wet hop beer is always going to be a little more earthy, regardless of what the hop is. It's never going to be that gigantic hop bomb that
Yep.
other like double IPAs are. So if you're going head to head against those, you're never going to win that with wet hop, no matter how great it is.
It's the opposite of cryo. It's the non-cryo.
Yes, yeah, it really is.
Right. Yeah.
And
Man, I wonder if that would be a product where you just you take all the cryo nonsense, right? The focused like alpha acids, and then whatever's left behind, you sell that as like an additive.
it is a product. It is a product. They sell it as noble
Is it really?
hops. They call it American Noble Hops. You can buy Citra at like 3 alpha. Yeah.
Jesus,
I'm
dude,
not
that's
buying it.
crazy.
What if you deconstructed a beer and just entered like a popsicle stick with like alpha, like hop goo on it, and on like a platter made of something, and there's like a deconstructed beer, and you just lick this stick with the cryo on it, and then I don't know, maybe it's a thing. It's a thought.
That's a 50 right
Well,
there.
maybe it's a thing. Brian Cooper's forehead tells the entire tale of what everybody else is thinking.
He's giving me that Captain Pike look. He's got that beautiful Captain Pike hair going on there. Giving me that Captain Pike look like, no, Ensign, you're not going to go on this away mission with that shit.
Now I have to look up Captain Pike because the hair is beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's wild, man. That's wild that they have that product. Yeah, and you know what? And to your point, Travis, of like you would love a higher score. What would you do to build this up into a higher score? It would just be mess with the malt a little bit, or what would you? How would we make this into like a 45?
No, that's perfect. Yeah, I wouldn't do a smash now that I know the hops. I wouldn't do a smash. I'd add a touch of biscuit, something or another, somewhere in there. I might, because I know this hop now, I might do a blend of Golden Promise with some standard 2-row. I might adjust the water to crisp it up a little bit. You guys say it's firmly bitter. I want a few more IBUs for this to be in its category. and that's got to come.
I would agree with
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's firmly bitter, but it's not. It's not to say you couldn't shove a few more IBUs in there.
Oh, I can shove IBUs, baby.
Yeah, I said clean, low bitterness. It was out of the way enough there. I didn't think it was crazy high.
I agree, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you're going to call it a double IPA, so honestly, maybe brewing the same recipe as an IPA, backing down the malt, backing down the alcohol, same hop profile, let the hop shine a little more without the alcohol sweetness. That might be a better way to present. Maybe wet hop is not designed to sit on top of. I love the beer, but not designed to sit up on top of 9.5% beer alcohol. You know.
Yeah, not much is. You know, that's what I'm going to say.
Your opinion on that doesn't matter right now, but I appreciate
It's true.
it anyway.
Absolutely. But it's always going to be
You
said.
can lighten it up, go into the
Please.
lower 1070s or higher 1060s and get it to dry out this much. And the alcohol get out of the way of the hops a little bit more too. But yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to this other beer, huh? This is Jacked Tones.
And this is a brown IPA, a brown double IPA, or what are we at?
It's a double, but yeah, brown IPA. It's based off of, and I'm going to tell you as little as I need to tell you, of course, because I don't want to ruin feedback here. I had a very well received brown ale before they split the categories. What was that? A few editions back, and I jacked it up. It was I called it Earth Tones. My whole theme for names, sub brewing, is everything's about suburban, blah blah blah. So I had Earth Tones as my brown ale, and my brown ale did well. And it was tasty. And then I pumped it up a little bit, and I made a Jack Tones, and I liked it more than the judges did, but I didn't love it by a long shot. And this is my most recent version of Jacked Tones, Earth Tones, a little bit bigger. I still miss the days when we didn't have brown IPA, we just had brown ale. But brown ale became smaller, and brown IPA
American brown ale, yeah.
Exactly. Because that's the category I like, that in-between category.
I'm looking at the style guidelines, and I guess I'm old enough and I've been judging long enough that I think of Janet's Brown as like a classic American brown. And now looking on page 40 for brown IPA, the Russian River Janet's Brown is in the brown IPA category.
It's a brown ale. I'm with you.
Yeah, but I think American brown.
I'll disagree with that all day long. I will disagree with that all day long.
Okay.
Because that beer is from whenever I had it, it was sweet and big. And I don't think a American brown ale is that.
Okay.
I think it's lower. I don't think it's as bitter. I don't think it's as malty aggressive.
If
you know what I mean? I think it's way smoother.
Sorry. There's nothing more American brewing than pushing the style.
Sure, but at some point, then you push it to another style category, and then here we are talking about how, man, I really miss the old days.
I was joking.
You know what I mean?
You're
So
correct.
we can keep a brown ale category, but then let's make a brown IPA and still keep the same things. I don't think we need to merge style categories as much as we have.
They shrank it. They didn't leave it. They didn't leave American ale where it was. They shrank it. They made it smaller. Yeah. So if they'd have left it where it was, I'd have been happier, but they didn't. They shrank it down to being a brown blonde. It's 5, maybe 6%.
Yeah.
Two things that really don't necessarily sell well. Exactly. I don't know. It's
45,
weird.
But 60, 4.3 to 6.2. Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's a much smaller beer than it was. No, so I agreed with the style guidelines before, and I liked pushing the edge. And the first brown I had was Tasty's at NHC, at BNA 5, BNA 6.
God, when Tasty had that orange igloo cooler with like the tap, and he'd walk around and just dispense beer to people.
No, there was a tent that had at least 2 versions of it. It was at White Labs in San Diego.
Okay.
I think it was 2011.
So that was your first brown ale?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, see, and this is another topic for maybe a different show, but because we have like 15 minutes left in this one. But I think a lot. Okay, here's my theory on music. Most people are stuck as they get older. They're stuck in the same genre of music that they listened to in high school. That to them is peak music, right? Which is why classic rock is so big. But I feel like the same can be said for beer too. Like if you have your first brown ale and it's Acme Brown, that's your baseline. That's your thing. Like my first stout was Rogue Shakespeare Stout. By all accounts, it's a fine to average stout or whatever. But for me, that is the bee's knees, man. That is like the pinnacle of what you can get to. So, that would probably explain, I think, maybe your kind of whole transition on, or not transition, but your transit on your brewing style or whatever, because that was a very aggressively hopped, nicely layered, flavored, beer.
I liked the beer, and I won't say you're wrong on me being stuck on a style, but I'm not exactly that guy typically. So that was one of my first big stouts. Same one, you got the Rogue behind you. We got Rogue in New Orleans a long time ago, so I had a lot of Rogue on tap. But I'm just my foray into beer. I never had good beer till I went to Germany, and I had a Crystal Weizen and Hefeweizen, and I was convinced that the Crystal Weizen was what Budweiser was trying to do and failing miserably. And I finally had good beer. And I came back to the USA and I avoided beer as much as I could still because I didn't like a whole lot of beer. And then one day I'm at a place in New Orleans area, and they had 3 Hefeweizens on tap.
Wow.
I have all 3. And I'm like, all right, I can get good beer in New Orleans now. Dead been there. And I never had a hoppy beer I liked until one night. The tap night was Arrogant Bastard.
Mm-hmm.
I was a Doppelbock drinker, and I had Arrogant Bastard. I'm like, all right, I don't like pale ales, I don't like IPAs, but I can do this double IPA thing because they call it a double IPA. But now it's American Strong Ale.
Yeah. And
so I learned that if there's enough alcohol and other things going on, I like hops too.
Yeah.
So I really came in weird directions around beer.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. And you know what? I'm older than all you guys. And I'm going to, Jason's right.
Not by much.
Listen, not by that much, but listen, listen, I'm lucky enough that my daughter graduating from high school. Listen, let your kids help you listen to some new music. Try some different beers and different beverages. It's good for your brain. It helps your neuroplasticity. It really does.
It's true.
Just try different stuff. Don't get locked into wanting the same. And maybe you like the thing you like, and that's cool. But try some different stuff from time to time. It can't hurt. Worst they can do is you don't like it. But it might give you some new horizons. That's why we brew.
Speaking of trying different stuff, Shar, why don't you try and give some feedback on this beer here?
Well, we'll see if I succeed. I'll try or do or do not. There is no. Sorry, I'm not.
Just
I know where you're going.
I'm not
that was golden.
Just read your notes.
Brown IPA. So I like the aroma on this. It's earthy. I get a low citrus in this. Medium malt. A little bit, almost more malt than hop aroma, and that could be. I've been a little bit stuffed up. So and this beer was. I pulled this out of the fridge literally when we started the show, so it might be a little cooler than it should be for me to really get all the hop aroma, but it's good and it matches. The hops and the malt aroma, they don't clash; they go together, and that's not always easy in any kind of brown ale, right? It's and I've probably bored people to death on this show numerous times talking about how the darker your beer gets. I love dark beer. I love malt. But the darker your malt is, the harder I think it is to match it with an appropriate hop that's not clashing.
I love you guys.
Thank you. Because I said the same thing over and over again, but maybe it'll get into people's heads. I don't know.
But you're right. That's
he's just stating the obvious. It's
exactly
perfect.
But it's you can't just toss tropical hops into a dark beer and expect it to work. Some might, but that's not what those hops are designed for and bred for. They're not meant, and you might get lucky, but that's not. If you're homebrewing, you could try it out. Why not? But the darker the beer, the more clash there might be. But this is actually very smooth. I gave it a 7 out of 12 for aroma because I would have liked a little bit more hop aroma. Having said that, but there's nothing wrong. I'm not getting any off aromas or anything wrong with the aroma of this beer.
Faded. They've faded.
Probably so.
No, absolutely.
Probably so.
Yeah. So that's warranted.
Yeah.
I would be upset when I read that feedback, but I would understand it because I have a bottle from about the same time I sent you the bottles. It's faded.
Okay.
Even in the keg, it's faded. So it wasn't necessarily packaging. But anyway,
it's just time.
Yeah.
No matter how well you treat it and how cold you keep it and how well it's packaged, it doesn't last forever. And that's just the nature of the beast. So 7 out of 12 for aroma, 3 out of 3 for appearance. It's light brown, crystal clear, medium low white head, but it's very persistent. And I always talk about on the show, I got my blurring on, so you really can't see, but there's like a little white ring around here. And persistent head doesn't mean you have 1.5 inches of foam in the glass half an hour later. It means you've got some bubbles in a ring, and it hasn't just gone away. And that's, Jamil taught me that a long time ago. And I think he's 100% right. And you can tell when beers don't have that, then I get really suspicious of the beer or of the cleaning of the glass. Because something is not, if it happens right away, I'm like, I don't know if I want to drink this. And I get a little bit afraid about putting that in my mouth. So it happens. So flavor, I think it's very biscuity. I get a lot of biscuit in this. I get a low roast. It's not a huge roast. I get a little low roast malt in here. I think that what's interesting to me for an IPA, there's definitely, medium to high bitterness, medium to high flavor. I get like an earthy, like a fruity character. The malt is right there with it, which I kind of like. And in a way, it reminds me, you talked about Arrogant Bastard. It reminds me a little bit of Arrogant Bastard.
Totally does,
No specialty.
Yeah,
Whether or not Mitch admits it or otherwise, but anyway.
And that was one that Jamil and Tasty never did clone. They got real close, but they never did quite clone that one. This reminds me a lot of Arrogant Bastard. I haven't had an Arrogant Bastard in 10 years. They're not bad. I just haven't had one for ages.
Same.
And it reminds me a lot of that. I get a little low fruitiness, maybe from fermentation. It may be the hops. It's not an off flavor. It doesn't stand out in that way. I could go either way on that. But maybe a little bit of fermentation fruit on that. Give this 12 out of 20 for flavor. Again, I would have liked maybe a little more for an IPA and a double IPA, but I'd like a little bit more hop flavor than we got here. Mouthfeel 5 out of 5, medium body, medium carbonation. Excuse me, low warming, more creamy than astringent. So that's good. I give this maybe like a 7 out of 10. Let me tote up my numbers here. That's going to be 22, 27, 34. I give this a 34 out of 50, which is a very good beer. And as you were saying, well, I want to hear about it later after we hear from Coop. But it's if you've sat on this for a while, it's the nature of any beer. It doesn't almost. Some beers get a little bit better over a little bit of time. Anything really high hops, high bitterness is not going to get better over time.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to shift whether or not it gets better or worse. It's not going to be the same.
Exactly.
Depending, and you said an interesting term, Shar, that I appreciated. Fermentation fruit.
Yeah. And
I never heard that. I've never heard that before, but I like it. Instead of saying like a fruity ester or a fruity contribution from just a fermentation fruit note.
I made that up
about
that. 20 years ago when I started judging because I didn't know how to characterize the difference because it's obvious when it's a fermentation ester. And I'm not sure sometimes how to describe that because it's fruity and it's a fermentation ester, but it's not necessarily identical to a aroma or a flavor of a fruit that you would eat. So I would talk about a fermentation fruit in the sense that it's good. I mean, that's part of the point of why you use an ale yeast is you want some kind of fermentation character, some fruitiness. And for me, it was a convenient shorthand that I still use when I'm judging because it demonstrates, it's rather than spending half an hour trying to fine tune some word that doesn't exactly exist in English about what that flavor or aroma is, it's fermentation and people know what that is.
Yes, agreed.
I've written fruity esters so many times that I think moving forward, I'll be using fermentation fruit.
Yeah.
It's like
Fermentation
firm
fruit,
fruit,
yeah.
FERM dash.
Firm fruit.
Supposed to
There you go.
FIRM. Now, if
Yeah.
firm FIRM fruit, you may not want that in your beer.
That'd be
Maybe
your
not.
green apple, but never mind.
Yeah. All right, Coop. Bust it wide, baby.
All right. Yeah.
He doesn't
Well,
like it.
This had a nice little hiss when it opened, and
It's fermentation shit is what I get from this. I get.
why are you guys putting words in my mouth? I haven't said
Fermentation
anything yet.
I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know,
when
man.
I first opened this, I poured it in the glass. I got a very bright, perfumey kind of floral thing, kind of sharply hitting my nose. And underneath that, there's some resin and light citrus as well. And the malts there's light raisiness in this. So fruit from the malt fruit. Rich.
I fucking love that
There's
shit.
some
Okay.
firm fruit and some malt fruit, and also some. I don't think there's any fruit, but there's some hop fruit. There's all kind of fruit in here. It's a fruity beer.
Hell yeah, dude. Actually, malt fruit makes a lot of sense too.
It does. You want to guess where it's coming from anyway, but yeah, you can tell if you're an experienced judge, you can usually tell if it's coming from a hop or from yeast or from the malt. I get a fruitiness from a malt like Munich that has this richness and a raisin prune sometimes, kind of gentle raisin prune, adding to whatever, if it's an ale, whatever the ale yeast did to it. And sometimes if it's a hoppy beer, this kind of beer is a hoppy and malty beer, so you got a lot of things combined, and it's an ale. So yeah, I would say the high fruity esters from the fermentation as well, some contributing from the malt and from the hops that are used here to combine to make it kind of a bright impression in the nose. Appearance wise, it's a nice kind of deep copper color. The head sticks around quite well, kind of a light tan head, fine bubbles, very, very well composed. But in the flavor, it actually kind of smooths out here a bit. You get kind of a pleasant, rich malt and hop combined. And the malt is, again, that kind of raisiny, rich. I don't want to say dark caramel, and I don't want to say it's almost like lightly chocolatey. It's not really caramelly, but it's a fruity malt with a light chocolate edge to it, but not a bitter chocolate. It's not roasty or sharp. It's actually quite smooth in the flavor. I don't really like that. The bitterness itself is kind of medium to medium low. It's kind of supporting, but it's not biting your tongue there either. And with the semi-dry finish, it kind of combines to make a nice impression there. But yeah, cleanly fermented, balanced, fairly even between the malt and the hops. And they both kind of linger together in the aftertaste. You get that fruitiness and that little resiny from the hop combining. And I agree that it is kind of like that American strong ale like character. And I wanted to say that before Brian even said it. It's it doesn't taste like an arrogant bastard to me quite, but it's like in that territory a little bit.
I get I'm just never mind. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You get a mouthful of shit because
Cool.
you hate double IPAs.
Well, that's true.
I don't know that. Yeah, I wouldn't judge this well as a double IPA necessarily. Brown double IPA even. It just it doesn't have enough hop for that. The hop isn't really winning here, and for an IPA, the hop has to win in my mind. But it is a pleasant drinking beer. Mouthfeel wise, it's got a nice kind of medium full body, medium carbonation, some light warmth, but not hot or burning. It doesn't go all the way down your throat. It's just kind of there, gentle. No astringency or any faults there. I guess if you want to make it a brown IPA, it's dry enough to be double IPA, but the hops would need to come up, and you might want to take out some of that malt complexity to let the hops really shine a little bit better. Even
that's the challenge on the brown.
Yeah.
That's the challenge on the brown. That's exactly the fight I have in this beer.
Yeah. So, you could enter it as an American strong ale and see how this did. It might not be too bad at this point. I'd like to taste it. And a month.
Honestly,
fresher.
I have a great American strong ale.
Yeah.
I'd love it. Next time I brew it, I'm sending you guys bottles. Don't worry about doing a show. Just drink it.
Yeah.
It's good.
So like from the aroma to the flavor, it's
Before we do a show.
it's one of those beers that kind of switched on me where it's like, okay, wow, this is perfumey and bright and just intense on the fruitiness in the nose. We get into the flavor and it's less obvious fruity esters going on there. So everything kind of combines and melds. And yeah, a brown ale, a strong, old school brown ale / American strong ale, kind of bridging the gap between both those styles in some ways. To me, I don't know how to score it. I'll just give it a 30, 34.
You go higher. I mean, if you don't know how to go high.
Okay.
Don't go low.
35 then.
Hey, it's not there anyway.
Damn, dude. We're taking points back slowly but surely. We're gonna do that.
Clawing the points back.
That's a fine score. You know what? So when I first tasted it, I was like, "Oh, this tastes like a fucking black IPA." It sort of tastes like a little bit lesser of a version of the
Jack.
No, the Back in Black.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
from 218.
I do not like black IPA. I really love Back in Black. It really that solves the problem of the hops and the dark malt. That one's a little more chocolatey. This one's not quite as chocolatey. They're different, but they're both really good, I think.
Yeah, and for me, it's specifically the way that the hops play with the malt, and it is that it's almost like a cherry, like a cherry, a tannic thing with a chocolate undertones. It is very confectionery like, but it's a brown ale, not a black ale, right? So it inherently it's going to be lighter.
A chocolate cherry brownie or something.
Yeah, it's something like that, man. And so that's what I got out of it too. Because I'm not a black IPA person at all, but that's what I got out of this. And I like that flavor where that sits, where it's that cherry astringent, but not in a bad way, right? But like a cherry skin,
a little bit of the pit
chocolate,
sort of pit where you're gonna die and get this arsenic poisoning or whatever that is. But
or like it's because it's that with the pine of the hops. Right. Those flavor combinations work, and then everything else for me is like ancillary. It's like I can kind of look past it. But yeah, I agree. It kind of needs some more oomph there. In the malt, because I think the malt is good, but it does kind of for me fall a little bit in a flavor profile that's not just that thing that I like, and then that's kind of it. If that makes sense. Let's take a break real fast, and then Travis, I'm going to give you like 5 minutes to rip off a recipe, and then we're going to get out of here because we got a whole other show to do. So hang on, everyone. It's Brew Strong. We'll be right back.
Brew Strong.
Did I say that? Did I fucking say that?
You did.
See, because and in my mind I'm going, don't say Brew Strong. This is Dr. Homebrew, and then I said Brew Strong, and I'm like, why? Because fucking Mike is in the chat, and he goes, "What up, Brew Strong?" And I'm like, and I'm looking at it, thinking, I'm like, don't say that. So it's his fault.
Costa Strong.
So hang on, it's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
There you go.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Games.
The leader in affordable, high-quality kegerators is here. Introducing Komos, the kegerator designed with serious beer drinkers in mind. It features an all-stainless steel draft tower, a major upgrade over traditional chrome-plated brass towers, and Komos keeps your new tower cold with their air-cooled tower fan, wrapping your beer lines in frigid coolness. Your beer is poured from innovative forward-sealing faucets that don't leak, so they stay cleaner for longer. Dual gas inlets on the rear of the fridge allow you to run both CO2 and nitrogen gas. Serve your beer with CO2, serve your kegged wine, or even cocktails with nitrogen. The digital temperature display has the largest range available, allowing you to use the Komos Kegerator for fermentation if you need to. And now Komos Kegerators ship with duo-tight draft fittings for that click-to-connect assembly we've all dreamed of. Buy direct from KomosDraft.com and receive free shipping on your order. That's KOMOS Draft.com.
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. Oh, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
All right, thanks for sticking with us, everybody. All right, Travis, give us a recipe. How did you make this this beer, please?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give you the details, and you'll recognize what you all tasted in the beer. And this is a strong challenge, in my opinion. I can make I've got medals for my black double IPA. I make a black double IPA that insults people's
Really?
everything. Oh yes, my black double. I smoke on that thing.
That
This
sounds
beer is
amazing.
more challenging.
Really? You in what way?
The mid malt fights the hops.
Like the crystal?
Yeah, and I'll tell you
Yeah.
everything I got in here. I started off with raw standard. Again, a lot of people like to call it a 2-row. A lot of malts 2-row.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be 1.8 to 2.2 to be 2-row,
Okay,
but
good
raw
point.
standard. So raw standard, blah blah blah. A little bit of carafoam because I'm trying to up my foam game, and you guys seem to have appreciated it. I've got almost 7% Crystal 60. So I use a British Crystal.
Wow. It tastes really good.
Mhm.
It doesn't taste like a beer that has 7% Crystal 60.
But that's that fruitiness I think Coop was getting.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't getting over carameliness or anything, but it was that fruity, like almost Munich-y or caramel. Yeah, like something certain. Yeah, the British caramel maybe pushes a little more of that. That's nice.
I think that's where you got it. And for chocolate, I used the pale chocolate, T25 SRM pale chocolate
Hell yeah.
crisp at 3.3%. So it's a pound and a half pound in my ends up being a 5-gallon batch. That's all the malt. I do have I use brown sugar in this one, not that you can taste the brown sugar because it ferments out. So it's about 7% of a brown sugar. You could use a dextrose, but for the sake of making a brown, I use my brown sugar because it's in the spirit. Hops are Citra and Simcoe. My brown ale uses earthier hops. I like my brown ale a whole lot. I don't like it more than this beer, even though I really like this beer. It's just as you're trying to up the IBUs, as you're trying to keep it dry. I mean, I designed this. I told you guys last beer that my double IPAs tend to run in the mid-9s. So this one, I designed it targeting 8. I designed it just under 8, thinking I'd go a little bit over. This is 8.4%. Trying to hit something that's going to score well. It's a hard style for me. Getting a balance, getting the brownness in there without totally clashing with the hops, which is easy to do.
Yeah.
Brown and hops. What's the South? It was a South Park. Pig and an elephant DNA just don't mix.
The
True.
man bear pig.
Yeah. That's good. So so I'm the challenge here is I've got 7 different IPA styles that score 43 or better. No, I got 6. I need one more to be a hero of hops in a master homebrew program.
Oh, that's what the master homebrew. Yeah, we didn't we talk to that dude?
Did you?
The
Which
Master
one?
Championship of Homebrewing? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Matt Harold started that, and Matt. So you might have to edit this. Matt, James, and we're the bag of dicks.
I don't edit anything, by the way. So if it's something you don't want out there, don't say it.
Oh no, I don't mind it being out there. You
Okay,
just might
well,
not want
yeah.
to share.
Not really good
Yeah.
shit.
So Matt James and I are the bag of dicks. One year we were the top group brewers for the Lone Star circuits in Texas here.
Mm-hmm.
It was just pre-COVID era, or maybe in the middle of COVID, and then so Matt's an outstanding brewer. James is an outstanding brewer. I do my best. Matt comes up with these ideas, and James and I, poke fun at him and laugh at him, and they turn out to be huge. So he started Master Homebrew program. He started the Mean Brews channel on YouTube. It's some things he does, and we always make fun of him, and they always turn out to be a good idea.
Hell yeah.
So sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, we had him on the show. He's a character. You can't deny that.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, for sure. All right, as we wrap this show up, any last comments, reflections? How can we help Travis here get a little bit more oomph out of his oomph?
Just brew a straight double IPA, or maybe put like 1/10 of those dark malts that you put in there only, and then just amp up the color with food coloring. And then instead of using brown sugar, just use simple regular sugar.
Oh, like that Sinmar stuff?
Yeah, Cinnamar.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't used that. I'm kind of joking, but
I was kind of hoping you were, but I wasn't entirely sure you were.
Yeah. No, I was.
By the expression on your face, people in the podcast can't see the expression on your face, but the expression on your face, like, good Lord, what is Cooper saying?
Yeah. No, I don't know. Yeah, I wish there was a way to get that middle malt out of the way without just lightening it up to the point where your beer's too light. There's not an easy way to do it. So
No.
I don't have a good answer for that, really. You just have to find the balance that works for you.
You want to know my secret ingredient with dark malt is nugget hops.
Yeah.
And lots of them. Nugget, to me, plays well with darker malts. Give it a shot.
I think resiny hops like Simcoe and Chinook would be do Simcoe Chinook. I don't know that the citrus doing any big favors here. Just belongs to a regular IPA. That's not brown.
I think the citrus is clashing. Yeah.
Citra, CTZ, citrusy hops do not play well with dark malt in my experience.
Get something that's a little gnarly, resiny, dank, and maybe up the bitterness a little bit, and put way more hops. Just use, if it calls for 3 ounce dry hop, go 6. Just
so by the numbers, this one's less IBUs than the last one. This one's only 77 IBUs. Last one's about 100. But this one, I think, it comes across a little more bitter. But again, my normal double IPA is, by the calculations, about 150 IBUs. That's total fake stuff.
Right.
I backed it down. I tried to bring it in. But I like the nugget tip and Cinnamar, and I'll name the beer. Coop said you'd like it like this.
There you go. Please do. Coop's food coloring bomb.
That way, I don't get any blame for that.
There you go.
I think that if you made a regular IPA and colored it black, artificially colored it black.
Isn't that what they made Cinnamar for? Really, is to help with black IPA?
Yes, they did.
A common.
Unfortunately, Coop, you're right. Somebody would appreciate
it tastes
that.
It tastes a little roast in that, though. They would pick something from the color. The
roast is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Beautiful bouquet of roastiness.
I have had beers with Cinnamar for coloring, and I think there is a flavor profile in that stuff.
Well, it's gotta be, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
too much.
There you go. Exactly.
Yes.
All right. Let's get out of here, everybody. We are cooked. We had 2 double IPAs. We have another one to do.
The worst advice we've ever given to anyone. Right here on this show.
Just send a bunch of beers.
Yeah, you know what you should do really with this beer is just run for Congress. Just run for Congress with it.
Just get the alcohol from a nice rum instead of like fermenting.
Thunderbird. Just take Thunderbird, water, add Cinnamar to it, and you're done. If you want to send in beers to the show, email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. He will get you on a list. It might be a no-fly list. We don't really know yet. But go ahead and email him, Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com, and we will take anything. We've said this before, and we'll say it again. Kombucha, wine, whatever. Speaking of wine, we're going to have my brother-in-law, actually, Jake. He works at a winery called Bedrock in Napa. And it's a great winery. And he's going to come on. We have some wine we're going to be drinking, and we're going to do kind of like a tasting show about how to bridge the flavors from wine into the flavors from beer. And you just have a lot of knowledge talk with a couple bottles of wine, which is something we've never done on this show before. And I'm excited for it. So that'll happen. So these shows are for March, technically. So we have shows in April, and then we have shows in May. And Jake will be on the May show. And I think it'll be a good time, man. Maybe this goes a little long, but we'll get some flavor talk out of it, and I think it'll be fun. So if you have products like that you're making at home that you want feedback on, like I said before, we will get the experts to come in and have those with us, so we can help you figure out the best way to determine a path on what you want to do. How you can improve it, or whatever. So,
can I throw in a boost, or am I ruining your flow?
No, go for it, man.
Feedback's been outstanding. I know it's in the beer.
Oh, thanks.
Obviously, I know it's in the beer. Feedback's been outstanding.
Awesome. Well, good, man. I'm glad. Yeah, that was a concern to have the Brew Strong fellas on, because we're like, well, they clearly know what they're doing, but also,
Yeah, no one's commented on the technique yet. It's all been recipe.
Yeah, see, there you go.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. If you are listening live for whatever reason, which is mainly just Mike, stay tuned. We're going to be starting the next show
Mike.
here in a couple of minutes. So until then, everyone, we'll see you guys later. And Brew Strong.